Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to another episode of Bro Man with an Opinion. It is January 21st, and we are in the first, or at the end of the first full day of Trump 2.0. Uh, Yesterday, I posted a video talking about the inauguration, and I said right after I was going to put a video up, but for some reason this thing wasn't working. So here it is now. This was going to be the video talking about the pardons by Biden and why I particularly um, wasn't bothered by it. Um, but then we had Trump do his pardon. So I'm really going to talk about both pardons. Um, Again, this is fairly new. So, again, just to put it out there, this is going to be a podcast that's going to cover sports, it's going to cover politics, it's going to cover pop culture. It's going to be a lot of different topics. That's just, whatever is going on in the world, um, things I'm just going to comment on. So, it might seem it's going to be heavy politics. I mean, come on, with Donald Trump, he keeps things interesting. So, there probably will be a lot. But again, um, anytime we talk about these kind of things, I just ask for people to be respectful. So let's start with Biden's pardons. So first, Biden pardoned his son Hunter, and I know he had said before that he wasn't going to do it, and now people are saying that he lied. You know, I've had this conversation before and heard these things before, and a lot of it is like politics and stuff like that. That a politician will say one thing maybe 3 or 4 years ago, stick to it pretty heavily, but then later change their mind. And it seems like we have this thing in this country that you're not allowed to change your mind. You can grow on a subject or a topic or whatever. I mean, look at Obama. Obama wasn't for gay marriage, but over time, his thinking changed and he evolved on it. Now, I know this might be a little bit different, but as a parent, you're going to do anything you can do to protect your kid, regardless of how old they are. And Hunter, yes, put himself in this position. First of all, I want to know who was the idiot who dropped off the laptop and never picked it back up. Did Hunter drop it off? And if Hunter did, like, hello, you have all this stuff on there, your drugs and your photos and all the other stuff. I don't even know why you would even take it out of the house. Just go get another one. So the fact that he let the computer out of his sight, he's an idiot for that. But the fact is, Biden as a father was protecting his kid. And this whole nonsense about weaponization, that they're going to political enemies, what disturbed me about that was like nobody could see that Trump was doing things wrong. And they were investigating him for it. Now, do I think that sometimes they were looking for things to get him on? Yes. And the example I gave yesterday was the hush money case, because I thought that was a ridiculous case, and digging into how he recorded and then, did the CFO went to jail, and you're saying that, in lieu of a raise, like he was paying the kids to. I mean, listen, it was a private business, and to me, certain things you should be allowed to do in your private business. And if you sit down with a person and say, listen, in lieu of me giving you a raise right now, because, maybe I'm a little strapped for cash right now, but listen, how about I pay your kids' tuition or help pay a portion of your kids' tuition and take that in lieu of an increase because that's saving you money? I don't see where something is wrong. I don't see where that's wrong. Even a public company, maybe as long as you're disclosing everything, but at a private company, you don't have to do that. So I thought that case was ridiculous, and the stuff that they were digging through and everything like that. But you trying to, and I would also say the Russia thing too. And the reason why I say the Russia thing is because it is possible that Trump did not know the extent of Russia's involvement. And the reason I say is because you can have a boss and you could be doing certain things and you can report to your boss, you're like, oh, this is good, da 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 da. and you're just not giving them the specifics of what you're doing. But to them, it's like, okay, well, great. Like, this person's got a handle on it. We're getting good results out of it. Okay, just keep doing what you're doing. You're not really asking the question. So it is possible that whoever was getting Russia involved, whoever started that, open communication with them, doesn't mean that Trump knew. They could have said, "Oh, look, we have this is with Russia, blah blah blah." However they delivered it to him, and he might have said, "Oh, okay." Maybe he didn't ask for the specifics; just said, "Okay, great, good job, keep going," and that's it. So it is possible that he had plausible deniability in that Russia part. It is possible. A lot of other people got taken down. He didn't. So I thought some of the Russia stuff was a little bit too much because to me, like I said, it is plausible. And I said any business or any time somebody's at the top, you may not know the specifics of how things are getting done. Maybe they're just giving you the bullet points, and they know better not mention this because this might open up a can of worms. Let me just phrase it this way, and then they'll be like, okay, you did a good job. But just getting back to the original point, the weaponization. I mean, Biden's own Justice Department was investigating his kid. And yeah, they tried to work out a sweetheart deal, and the judge said no, and things moved forward. But when you have somebody who is constantly saying, and you have members of Congress saying, the Biden crime family, we're going to investigate their family, and you're doing it because you're doing it to get revenge for what they did to Trump or what they were doing to Trump. That's what it was. And you didn't want your kid to get caught up in it, even though he did commit some crimes and should get a punishment for it. But do you want to leave your kids in the hands of somebody who is going to still, let's say he was already convicted, would probably still try to find something on him because he is upset because he feels that your father personally came after me? And you're going to do what you're going to do to protect your kid. So the part that didn't bother me, and I always say this if you were in that position, you would do the same thing. If you knew you had somebody over here constantly threatening to go after your kid and your family. So him parting Hunter did not bother me because any parent's going to do it. I think obviously if he won re-election, I don't think that he would have done it. If Harris was going to win, if he felt Harris was going to win, or he already knew she was going to win, like after, because he pardoned him after the election. But if he knew Harris had won, I don't think he would have pardoned any. I don't think anybody would have gotten a pardon for those that he did. I don't think they would have gotten one. But again, when you have somebody who is constantly threatening, and your partners, Republicans, or that House was doing the investigation, you're going to do it. And also, they kept saying we're investigating the Biden crime family. Now, you may have had some circumstantial evidence, but as we know in a real court of law, that doesn't go anywhere. You have to have hard evidence. And clearly, nobody had hard evidence because nobody, excuse me, I don't know why all of a sudden I'm starting to sneeze. But if anybody had any kind of real hard evidence, there would have been some recommendation to, listen, you would have announced it. You would have said, we have found this evidence and we're calling on the Justice Department to do this investigation. Now, would the Justice Department have done it? I don't know. But I'm just saying, you never came out and said, this is what we have, this is all going to stick in court, we're calling to do an investigation. That never happened. It was just, well, we have this, we have a wire transfer. Yes, you caught Biden a lie, saying that he never communicated with his son's business partner, but we have pictures and all that kind of stuff. Was Biden completely honest? Absolutely not. And from the beginning, I knew that was bullshit. Because it's the same thing in Trump's first term, where he had to divest himself of the business and he left the business to the kids. It was supposed to be a vote, was supposed to talk about it. You don't think when Eric and Don and everybody came over to the White House for dinner, you don't think they were talking about the business? You don't think Trump was still involved? You know that man was still involved. And you're telling me that when Hunter came over, while he was the vice president or whatever, you don't think Hunter and his dad talked about stuff? You don't think Hunter either directly or in a roundabout way, was trying to get certain information that could help him with his business overseas? Absolutely. The If you were Hunter Biden and you knew your dad was the VP, you don't think you're gonna have some sort of stroke that's gonna give you a little ego boost, and you're gonna try to manipulate the hell out of that as possible? Now, were there times that I do believe that Hunter was using his dad's name without Joe knowing about it? Absolutely. But there were times that Joe did know about it, and Joe did lie that you know he didn't have any context. So yes, Biden was not completely honest with things. But if you really had a crime, you would have shouted that from the roof. The House investigation, they would have shouted that from the rooftops that we have all the evidence we need. Now the Justice Department needs to do something about it. Will they do it? And then put the squeeze on the Justice Department to be like, hey, I know your guy put you in here, but hey, you need to investigate him now because we have this evidence that he's, and that never happened. You just kept saying, I mean, even Fox News, I remember seeing an interview with Laura Ingraham. Even she was saying to the person, well, where's the evidence? You keep saying you have something or you talk about this, but you're not really connecting the dots here. And he couldn't say anything. So I understand the pardon of Hunter, and that doesn't upset me. And I know it seems unfair because obviously, if you have kids, you tell them if you did something wrong, you got to deal with the consequences, and there really is no consequence for Hunter. Now, on the other side, before he left, he pardoned his brother, his sister, all that stuff, and the same thing. If it wasn't being touted that their goal was to go after his family, he never would have done the pardon. And I would have done the same thing to feel like, you know what, I can't leave this to chance. So I got to give them a pardon. Now, I'm a little surprised that we're not hearing that Trump is going to try to challenge that to do these preemptive pardons because you haven't committed a crime yet. So, why would you get a pardon for something that hasn't been proven that you've done? That part I really don't understand. And I know they were talking about that when Trump's first term, when he was thinking about pardoning himself, and they weren't sure if he could exactly do that because there was nothing in the Constitution. Although, which is funny, because I remember Republicans, well, there's nothing in the Constitution that says he can't do it. Well, Biden did it. And I think there was a legit reason of why he done it. Now, pardoning the January 6th committee, that was probably unnecessary, but I think he did it more so as an FU to Trump. And while some Democrat politicians have issues with it, I think there are some who's like, you know what? Trump gets to, flout the norms and do all this other stuff. Good for Biden. He did an FU for once. Somebody did something, on the side that's not like above board. Like, finally, you know what? Everybody else does all this screwed up shit. You know what? This is an FU to you. So I'm sure there are some people who are happy about it and some who aren't. I know a lot of it feels like that this is now given Trump the okay to pardon the January 6th rioters. And I don't think it did because we knew Trump was going to do this anyway. And I remember saying to my dad, a few days after the riots happened, was they probably figured that Trump was going to pardon him before he left office, and he didn't. And then he was saying, well, when he comes back, he's going to do it. So it shouldn't be a surprise to anybody that he did it. Now, I do have an issue with the January 6th pardons. Not all of them. Because while we saw everything that happened, I mean, as much as Trump and everybody wants to whitewash that day, like that day didn't happen. Listen, America has an ugly history. There's bad history, but it's a part of history, and you cannot and should not erase that. You know, I wasn't I wasn't in agreement with them removing some of those statues because that's part of history. Not all of America's history is good. But that's what's in the history books, and you learn from history. But trying to whitewash things to me is a mistake. You know, okay, there was a statue of a general of the Confederate. Okay, that is going to lead to a conversation of what that general did, you know, back in those times. But I disagree with it. Just like when, they were banning books about, no, this is how it is. You cannot try to blind us from it. And with January 6th, we all saw what happened. It started out peaceful, and then it just went off the hinges. Now, were there people in there who trespassed? Absolutely. And there most likely was a lot of people in there who should not have been there, who followed their friend in, maybe they got pushed in, whatever the reason, they were inside the building. At most, some of them, most likely, was just doing a trespassing. But does a trespassing deserve to get a heavy handed sentence? But we saw people violently attacking the police. We saw Officer Hodges being crushed against the door. We saw people breaking windows. I mean, the lady who said, we need to organize if we're going to take this building. There was a picture of a guy in tactical gear with zip ties. Clearly, did not have the best intentions. That if he found some, he was going to zip tie them. And to me, that deserved a heavy-handed punishment because you're in tactical gear and you have a bunch of zip ties, meaning you're ready to take some freaking hostages. So you should not get a pardon. So I'm disappointed that he did a blanket pardon for everybody rather than truly looking at it case by case. Because, yes, I do agree with Trump. There were probably some people in there who, yes, deserved a punishment, but was probably punished too harshly. But those who assaulted cops, who damaged property, leave them in there. Serve out your full sentence, or if you got a sentence that you're up for parole after a certain amount of time, then that's different. Then you stay there and you have to deal with that. But I do think some of those people probably got more than what they deserved, even though they were wrong. You know, like if you have a little bit of weed on you, they're ready to send you to jail for like 7 years for a little bit of weed. I mean, okay, if you got a little bit of weed, it's against the law. Okay, a slap on the wrist. Maybe you do a year in jail. Maybe you do 6 months in jail, 8 months, whatever. But to go to jail for 7+ years for like a little thing of weed in your pocket, that was ridiculous. That's a heavy-handed sentence. Yes, you did something wrong. You weren't supposed to have the weed. Obviously, before weed was starting to be legalized, you weren't supposed to have it. Well, now you do. Well, guess what? Now you're going to jail. But you shouldn't go to jail for all that time. So I don't. I disagree with the blanket pardon. But we also know why Trump did it. That's the other thing. Biden did all this stuff to protect people. Some will say, well, he's hiding something. But remember, the House was doing the investigation, but they could never tie anything. Does it mean that Biden's innocent? No. But remember, you're innocent until you're proven guilty. And if you had something, you would have shouted that you had something. It's just like the Russia investigation. Mueller was finding all this stuff, but he wasn't finding the stuff to tie Trump to it. And everybody, oh, Trump knew, Trump knew, Trump knew. Well, guess what? You're innocent until proven guilty. And technically, Trump is still innocent. Could he have known? It's possible. Could he have not? It's possible too, because I gave you the example earlier. People could have been doing stuff and just saying, hey, look at these numbers, look at this, look at that. And Trump is like, okay, good. Well, whatever you're doing, keep it up. Good job. He's just happy things are going well. He didn't ask for the details. It's possible. But we know why Trump did it. It's because, you know, he, and I believe that during the riots, you hear the stories that he was watching on TV. I'm sure he took pride. He's like, wow, look at all these people doing this for me. And this is his thank you. I'm going to get you out of jail. That was his thank you. And it shouldn't be a surprise. He said he was going to do it. So, you know, Trump, he keeps saying he was treating Bella stuff. It's possible, yes, he might have been a bit harsher because there was more vindictiveness to take him down because everybody saw him as a threat. But again, as I said in the last podcast, a lot of these troubles, a lot of these cases, he brought on himself. The documents case, just give the documents back. That's all you had to do. But he didn't want to do it. No, this is mine. He didn't want to do it. So that's what happened. Again, overturned the election. Pissed off that he lost. He was a sore loser. We know he's a sore loser. He never loses. He never does anything. That's his ego. That's who he is. And now he's doing this as a thank you to them. And actually, a very good point was just made on watching Abby Phillips' show on CNN. She made a very good point. What about the rioters or the protesters from the George Floyd protest? Because some of them did assault police officers. If you're going to let January 6 people out who assaulted police officers, why won't you let them out? And I'm not going to say it's a race thing. I'm going to say it's because, well, they weren't celebrating you. Everybody says that Trump's racist and all this stuff. This is why I don't see Trump, because I don't see Trump as a racist, because Trump attacks everybody. If you attack him, he's going to attack you. Doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. Doesn't matter if you're black or white, Hispanic, whatever. I will admit sometimes his rebuttals or when he attacks somebody, yes, it does seem like it is a bit harsher when it's somebody of color. But I just don't think. But I think he does that because he wants it. When he says he's a counterpuncher, he wants it to sting. He wants it. He wants it to hurt. He wants your feelings, everything to be hurt. But he attacks everybody. Man, woman, white, black, Hispanic, doesn't matter. If you attack him, he's going to attack you. So that's why I just don't see him. Whenever I say he's a racist, I just don't see him as a racist. He is an equal offender. He will attack. It doesn't matter. But if you pardon the January 6th riots who attack police officers, why wouldn't you attack the people who? Why won't you pardon the people who attacked the cops during the riots? And then here's the other thing: he's saying that day was a peaceful day. Well, those protests for George Floyd, they started out peaceful. A lot of the protests always start is that when it gets dark, then you get the idiots who come because by that time, when it gets late, usually the protesters, the peaceful ones, disperse and go home. But it's late night, and you use it as an excuse to start breaking into stores, start rioting, start attacking, and then everybody gets lumped into that one group. And then it looks like, oh, well, the black people, they're just all rioters, and that's not true. It always starts out peaceful, but you get those idiots who come in to use it as an excuse to do what they want to do. But you notice how Trump is not, equating those two. And some are going to say, well, because it was a bunch of white people who did January 6th, it was also black people who did the George Floyd. But to me, it's not the race thing. To me, it's that these people did it for me. And yes, if I remember correctly, Trump, probably had some comments about that. But again, that kind of fueled into, him trying to get elected and everything like that. But, if you're going to pardon these groups, I want to see somebody bring that up to him. Well, hey, how about you um, release those people? I want to see if either the media brings it up or maybe somebody else brings it up to him. Let's see, and let's see how he tries to wiggle his way out of that one. So Biden's pardons don't bother me. Like I said, I think the January 6 ones for the committee, I think that was unnecessary. I know he pardoned anybody who testified. I agree with that because those are people who do not have the means to defend themselves. You as a congressperson, maybe you may not have the monetary, but you just have access to other levers to sort of help you where as a regular person you may not. So the pardons of his family does not bother me. Listen, Trump pardoned Kushner's father. Okay, it's not unheard of that family members get this. I think it was just more so because Biden said he wouldn't do it, and then he ended up doing it. But that doesn't make Biden innocent. Like I said, Biden did lie. Biden said he didn't have any contact, but clearly that's not true. He did. And does it make you look guilty in a sense? Yeah, I could see that, but I don't think he did the pardoning because he felt like Congress was getting close to something or whatnot. He did it because he's like, this is a man who is going to purposely come after my family because in his mind he thinks I went after him, not his family. Ivanka wasn't investigated. Don Jr. wasn't investigated. They got called in to testify to the January 6th committee, yes, but they were not investigated the way Trump was investigated, which again he brought upon himself. Just like Hunter brought all of his stuff upon himself. And again, if your kid, got caught at an underage party, if your kid was caught underage drinking, if your kid was caught, with somebody who had drugs in the car or whatnot, and if you were somebody who maybe you knew the officer who did the arrest. Maybe you know the lawyer. Maybe you know somebody in the district attorney office. Maybe you know somebody who knows a judge. You're going to pull all the levers you possibly can to try to protect your kid. You may not be able to get your kid off 100%, but if you can get things dialed back where your kid will really just get like a slap on the wrist, you're going to do it. It's just human nature. You're going to want to protect your kid no matter what. Even though you know your kid fucked up, you're going to want to protect them. So I feel like people really shouldn't be upset that he pardoned his son or pardoned his family because we know why he did it. Again, I'm not saying some of the stuff that we heard was a little shady. I'm not saying that, but shady doesn't always mean a crime. And again, if a crime was committed, Republicans they would have shouted that shit from the rooftop. Trump would have ran with that shit, and he never did because as it looks now, there was no there. Some lies, but there was no there. So I feel that people shouldn't be up in arms. Again, I understand the message that it sends, but I think if Nikki Haley was president or the incoming president, Biden never would have did the pardons. If Harris won, never would have did the pardons. But the guy who was leading or saying that they wanted to go after his family, that was the guy who won, and he wanted to do the protection. Now, like I said, we haven't heard Trump or anybody say they're going to try to challenge these pardons. I mean, that could come later. Who knows? But it looks like they want to move past it. But like I said in the other video, Trump got the best revenge out of everything. He won. That's the best revenge because it pisses people off. How can this guy be back in the White House after everything? And he's back. Now, what is going to be the results of this? What's going to be the fallout of him releasing everybody from January 6th or almost everybody? That we're going to have to see. Is that going to embolden those two? And I think some have learned their lesson. I'm sure some are apologetic. Some, not all. They might be like, holy. And before I even continue, here's the other thing. When they talk about, they're treated horribly and they're in these, poor conditions and these inhumane conditions, that's what jail is. Jail is not a country club. It's not going to be clean floors and clean walls and have a nice, you know, potpourri smell. So it drives me crazy. Not just hearing about January 6th, but talking about where Diddy is and where R. Kelly was. Well, the conditions aren't great, and how people complain about Rikers. It's jail. It's not supposed to be comfortable. And if you spend your time there and you get out, that should make you not want to go back. So it drives me up the wall when I hear that. Oh, they're in humane conditions. Oh, the food's not great. Oh, they're all crammed into these small cells. Oh, there's overcrowding. Don't commit the crime if you can't do the damn time. Yeah, I know that's cheesy, but I'm fucking saying it. If if jail was supposed to be this nice thing that everybody would want to go, but nobody wants to go to jail. So that's too damn bad that it's dirty, whatever. It is what it is. It's jail. So I just hate that. It drives me crazy when I hear it, and it doesn't matter who the person. Like I said, they said it about Diddy. I remember a long time ago they said it about Michael Jackson. I remember he was like, "Oh, there was duty all over the floor." Yeah, Mike, it's jail. There's nobody coming around, every hour with a mop and bucket to clean stuff and make something pristine. That's not what's happening in jail. But I do think some are have reflected and realized that they made a mistake, and some uh, who were charged, and I got a few who did get lesser sentences or whatever. Yeah, I do remember them coming on TV and saying that they were sorry and what they did. But there are some who are not sorry and who think they did the right thing. And I don't know what those people are going to do. Are they going to go after people? I don't know. So it does send a bad message, and we have to see what's going to happen. I mean, maybe nothing will happen these next 4 years, or maybe something will because they feel Trump will pardon them again. They might feel, hey, we have protection. We have a guy in the White House who's going to protect us. That might be how they feel and how they interpret this. I don't know. I don't know how it's going to go and how these people, because I'm sure some of those people are going to want some form of revenge. And we just gotta see what's gonna happen. I mean, like 6 months from now, we're gonna hear that a congressman or a congresswoman, was attacked, where somebody, sexually assaulted, where they held hostage. Who knows? Because these people feel emboldened now. They feel emboldened to do whatever they want to do because they feel like they have cover. And, you know, Pam Bondi and Vance was like, these things could be looked at by case basis, and they weren't. Now, I don't know how police unions and all this. I know they said some of them are disappointed, but well, I mean, I don't know what you're gonna be able to do. I mean, it's not like Trump has any more campaigns to run. Um, but I don't know the repercussions for this. Could this cost Trump him? Could this cause him in the next midterm elections? Could this work in a Democrat's favor to um, flip the House and the Senate back? If Democrats, I mean, this is something that Democrats can, if they're smart, this is something that Democrats can play up to say, he doesn't care about you. Look what he did. He didn't care that one of your own was attacked. So those Republicans who haven't come out and spoke out against it, Democrats should use that. Is that going to be a sole reason why they would win the seat? Most likely not, but I think it's something you should keep to the forefront of people's minds because the problem is with some things, it's like with abortion. When abortion got overturned, that was very close to the midterm elections. And Trump was taking credit for it and everything like that. So Democrats were able to use that issue to kind of help flip things in their favor because it was fresh in people's minds. If things are not like this issue now is gonna upset police people, but 2 years from now, or is it next year when the midterm elections are happening, people are really gonna remember. It's like with the shooting at the Florida school. I remember all the teenagers started to mobilize and start holding these protests about wanting gun control, the changes that happen with guns. I remember some of the Republicans were saying, this is a bunch of kids, they're going to even organize, this is not going to stick. So they were wrong on that part, but it didn't make a drastic difference that year in the midterms because the issue was so far apart that other things are happening, people forgot to put it in the back burner. So let's say Trump did this in August, like let's say like I said, I think the midterms are next year. So let's say he did this in August of 26. That's close enough to stay fresh in people's minds that maybe that could turn a couple of seats because you'll have the support of police unions or whatnot. But this is happening so early at 25 that a year and a half from now, people probably won't remember. But if Democrats are smart, just like how Trump does, you will keep pounding this issue in people's heads. Fix your messaging. Take a page out of Trump's messaging book. Trump knows how to message. That's what Democrats have to learn to do. They suck at it. So find your issues and beat it into the heads of your Democrat Party and try to get your voters to come out. That's what you got to do. But we had two presidents who have pretty much gone wild with pardons. And we will see what the result's going to be. I mean, there's no harm that's going to be done from Biden's pardons because those people are not looking to go do anything nefarious. We don't know about all the people that Trump pardoned. What is it? It's Oath Keepers, and I forgot who the other Proud Boys. And I think it was the Oath Keepers, the guy who wore the horns. He already put out, "I've been pardoned." I think he said, "I'm gonna go buy guns," or something like that. That he put out on X. He put his message out. I mean, now did he say outright, "I'm gonna get revenge"? No, but you don't know what this guy is thinking. And when you feel you have a powerful friend, you're going to be pretty emboldened to do something. I mean, is anything going to happen tomorrow? No, but 6 months from now, a year from now, who knows what's going to happen? And hopefully nothing does. But the Biden pardons didn't bother me. Um, I think it's because we understand why he did it. He may disagree with it, but I should say, people disagree with it. I know some Democrats have come out, but I think you disagree with it, but you understand it. Now, if Trump hadn't said anything, it's possible Biden would have done it, but he probably would have said, "Knowing this guy, I can't trust him. I'm going to do the pardons anyway." I mean, he talked about locking up Hillary Clinton. He never went after her. But this time was different because he had just went through a shit ton of investigations that he felt like Biden was doing. So he's like, "Yeah, you know what? Yeah, even if Biden Trump didn't say it, I think Biden probably still would have felt he had to." So let's see what the fallout is from the pardons from Trump, because there really isn't any fallout for Biden's pardons. It's Trump's. And I think some Congress members, maybe even some lawyers, maybe even some police officers, I think some should be a little nervous just in case. Because that is something when you think you have a powerful ally. And we'll see what goes down. But but that's going to be it for this episode of Bro Man with an Opinion. Thanks for checking it out. Again, please subscribe. Please leave your thoughts and your comments. I would love to see them and read them and see what you think. Um, coming up soon, we'll be talking about football. We have the Chiefs and the Bills yet again, uh, facing off in the championship round to determine who's going to go to the Super Bowl. And most of the last 3 years, I believe it's been Patrick who's gone over Josh Allen. Now, some think Josh Allen has it this year to overcome Patrick. I don't know. I see a little cockiness in Josh that may come back to bite him. I mean, in my opinion, they only won against the Ravens was because of that drop ball in the end zone when they went for the 2 point conversion and he dropped the ball. I think if that didn't get dropped, I think we would be seeing Ravens versus Chiefs, which I think would have been a much tougher one because I believe it was last year. You know, Chiefs barely squeaked out that win because their Ravens defense was pretty good. So we got a good football Sunday coming up with Eagles and the Commanders as well. That was a little bit of a surprise. A little disappointed that the Lions lost, but seeing them pan to the crowd and seeing all the disappointed looks on their face, and I'm a Yankee fan, but it just reminded me of 2015 when the Mets lost the World Series to the Royals. Just that's just what kind of flashed back to me, especially because they showed an older gentleman sitting in the crowd, and I just remember watching when the Mets lost. There was an older gentleman with his grandson on his lap, crying, and just seeing the old guy in the Lions, that disappointed look, it just made me think about that. So a little disappointed, but the Lions are losing their offensive coordinator. He's taking the head coaching job for Chicago, so we'll see how that goes, and wonder where Pete Carroll's going to go because apparently that was a job that Pete Carroll wanted or was interested in. But we'll see. But yeah, I'll be dropping an episode just talking about the games coming up. There'll probably a few other things on the agenda. I mean, I might be doing another political episode. We'll see. Like I said, Trump keeps it interesting, man. I mean, that's like the one thing you can't deny. I was not into politics at all. I read the newspaper here and there in high school. Maybe while taking a bus to school, I would read it. When my grandfather was done reading, because every morning my grandfather went out to go get the paper. So when I would come home from school, maybe I would just sort of thumb through it. Um, I didn't really watch the news. I watched it if I was sitting in a room because my grandfather was watching it or my mother was like watching it. My mother really watched it just for the weather, but I wasn't into any of that stuff. You know, Bits and pieces. Like I said, I did watch the inauguration stuff like that, but I wasn't really following anything. Like I said, I would read something would catch my eye. But when Trump came, man, in 2015, when he came down to Escalon, man, I was just involved because he just, I hate to use the word, but he just kept it entertaining. Because politics is boring, but Trump does keep it interesting, does keep you on your toes, does keep you exciting. And I gotta say, one of the things that I that I do enjoy with Trump is when he does the press conferences because sometimes, sorry, sometimes a reporter will ask him a question, and you get to see a look on his face like what? Like we just like sit down. Like what next? What? Sit down. Next. Fake news. Next. It's just like how he just dismisses people. And like sometimes they'll pan to like the reporter that he's like dressing down, and like you see a look on their face, like okay, really? Or like if they, like if he skips over somebody, they'll show it, and they're trying to get the question, and he's just like ignoring them. Like that's something that I enjoy. Because I do remember one, he was like, "Sit down," or he's like, "Oh, you're from Yahoo? Oh," and I can't, I gotta find that clip, but he just like eviscerated this reporter. I think it was from Yahoo Finance, I think, but just like eviscerated her. Like that's why your website's failing or your paper's dying. Or I can't remember what he said, but he just eviscerated this woman because of the question that she asked him. I think it was a COVID question, and he didn't like it, and he just tore into her. But it was just like how it was just so smooth. Like it just comes to him so quick to just throw this thing out there, and that's like the thing that like I watched. Like I remember watching the Charlottesville press conference after Charlottesville had happened, and they were kind of on him because he said there were very fine people on both sides, and they were on him about it. So he did another press conference where they wanted him to obviously he didn't apologize, but in his way he was apologizing in his way. But then, like right after he did that, he just stepped all over what he just did and just went off the rails again. I'm like, oh my god! I bet his handlers are like, oh my god, like he did so good and now he's messing it up. Like, what is he doing? Because like once he goes off script, it's just over. So that's like just like the one thing that I kind of sort of enjoy watching when he does these press conferences because I mean it's not funny, it should be entertaining, but just like sometimes the look that like, what did you just ask me? Like and like don't interrupt or like quiet, that kind of thing. So yeah, but that's the end of this episode. More episodes are going to drop. Again, thanks for listening, and if you have some comments, throw them my way.